I'm very excited to be giving a class on the string quartets of Beethoven. I've said that the string quartets are in some ways the ones that tell us the most about Beethoven. Some might think, well, maybe it's the symphonies that tell us a lot about Beethoven, and that's true too. But the thing I like about the string quartets is that they're all evenly spaced throughout his career. There is a group of quartets at the very early part of his career, a group of quartets in the middle, and a group of quartets in his late style. And the other thing I like about the quartets is that if the symphonies tell us about the public Beethoven, the string quartets tell us about the private Beethoven. So in some ways, we get an even more in-depth insight into Beethoven's very soul. I'm hoping that when people take this class, they'll get a sense of not only Beethoven himself, but Beethoven and his place in history, a place of who his contemporaries were, an idea of the people who he worked with, and even a sense of the musical style that he worked within, the way that he wrote for the instruments, the way that he put his music together. I hope that through both a combination of historical insight and musical details, they'll come away with a better sense of who Beethoven was as a composer and also as a person. One of the things that interests me about Beethoven is not only the public life of his symphonies, but also the private world of his string quartets. I think that every composer tells a little bit more about himself in chamber music than they do in music written for a large concert hall. At the time these works were written, they were written to be played, well, chamber music in people's living rooms, maybe for a small invited audience. There were very few professional string quartets at the time, so people would buy the music and they would play it themselves. They would do the best they can, despite the fact that the music is so hard to play. So one of the things that interests me about this music is Beethoven's approach to it. It's just a different way of writing the music, because you're writing it not so much for the audience, but for the players themselves. One of the things that fascinates people about Beethoven is that he almost seemed to struggle with life. He had so many personality problems, psychological problems. He had a terrible temper. He had various illnesses. And this comes across in his music, this struggle that comes across in his music. Who was this Beethoven, and what was his life like, and how is it reflected in musical terms? That's one of the things that we know about in the symphonies. We know about it in Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. We know about it in Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. But what about the string quartets? How does he express himself in a more personal, in a more intimate medium? That's one of the things that I hope to talk about in the course of 4 class sessions for the Humanities seminars. So I hope that you will join me for the string quartets of Beethoven. We'll listen to music, we'll talk about Beethoven's life, and I hope that it'll be 4 very enjoyable class sessions.